Right, everybody. Got some pretty interesting and exciting news for everyone today. Earlier this week, I was lucky enough to have Dr. K hop on kind of like a live stream with me. If you were around, Wednesday, I think we did this. This was live streamed on X, so you could check it out there too. But also, in the last like 72 hours, the Quai team has been cooking, and things have gotten pretty interesting. And so Project Soap has been launched. We had this live session before Project Soap was officially launched. But if you are unaware, because this just happened the last couple of days, I want to quick tell you about Project Soap real fast, just give you like the quick and dirty, and then we're going to get right into the interview from earlier this week with Dr. K if you missed the live stream. So let's hop on over to the computer and I'll tell you about Project Soap, which I think is a total game changer for mining, which has been a little rough lately. So you might want to find out about this. All right, so here's the official blog post announcement of Project SOAP, which is an acronym that stands for Subsidized Open Market Acquisition Protocol. And I'm going to leave a link to this blog post in the video description below this interview with Dr. K. But everything you need to know is in here. And if it's a little confusing, I'm not gonna like go through the entire blog post. I have read it. I've been, paying attention, and I think this is very interesting what's about to occur here. So make sure you're paying attention next week, and moving forward. But just reading the top, and then I would recommend just checking out a couple of these different economic scenarios. But essentially, this subsidized open market acquisition protocol is like merge mining, okay? But instead of paying the subsidy chain's rewards, so the chains that are getting merge mined, instead of paying those rewards to the miner, the reward is paid back to the protocol address that sells the parent or subsidy token. So you're merge mining that token, and then that amount is sold at market and buys Quai at market, creating this loop where you're essentially deleting and offsetting a lot of the sell pressure, I think, that has been kind of dragging Quai's price action down, really since launch. And then those purchase Quai are either going to be burned or, streamed as a time deferred incentive to users who want to lock Quai. I think this is a very interesting prospect here. I'm pretty in line with the idea of kind of some sort of like yield farming mechanism. I think what they're talking about here is going to be done at the protocol level. These parent or subsidy chains are going to be mined, and then these parent chains are going to be used to kind of, purchase Quai or burn Quai, purchase and burn at market. So it's either going to be purchase and like yield or purchase and burn all done at the protocol level. So hopefully that makes sense. I think that's it. That's all I'm going to say before we kind of hop into this interview with Dr. K. I would recommend reading through this blog post. This is extremely interesting. What's about to occur here, and they seem to be targeting getting this going, next week in Orchard Testnet. So I'm going to be standing by and paying attention. I do plan to adopt whatever, is going to happen here with the pool. So let's looking like there's going to be SHA 256, a cow pow. So this might be a pivot from prog pow Quai to just straight up cow pow, and then script. So these are interesting times, miners. So let's see how this goes. And just pay attention. I'll be like, communicating to you guys on X, or I'll do some, videos if need be. So without further ado, let's hop on over into my live session and interview with Dr. K from Quai Network earlier this week. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks, man. Dr. K here for taking the time to come and talk with me. There's a couple different directions we could go. First, I kind of wanted to just start with like a brief introduction. I know you as the founder of Quai, and I'm very aligned with Quai and the principles of Quai and the overall, kind of like crypto revolution here. But I wanted to open it up to you if you want to just do like, a quick, just kind of like background for anybody, who ends up watching this on YouTube who like just isn't super familiar with you, which I doubt will happen. But just in case, I figured I'd let you kind of just real quick, just do a little background.
Yeah, so name's Dr. K. Been in the crypto space as a hobbyist since about 2012. Been full time since 2017. What originally got me interested in it was the concept of electronic peer-to-peer cash, but really in that statement, it's separating money from the state to enable sovereign individuals. So I think that's a lot of the problems in our society stem from the nature of the money and how it can be artificially manipulated to sort of the advantage of institution and politicians. Um, so things like food, I think problems with the food supply can be traced back to the money. Problems with medicine, same thing. So fundamentally, if you're really trying to sort of fix the world, you got to fix the money first. And I think a lot of that was manifest in Satoshi's ideas. Now, unfortunately, in the interceding 15 years now, it feels like crypto has kind of fallen off the bus, and it's become more of a TradFi centric, um,
Yeah.
industry, and a lot of it's about gambling and speculation rather than actually building tools that can function as a parallel monetary system. And so after working for Consensus for a couple of years and building the Lattice One hardware wallet, I did sort of this other venture, which is now Quai Network. Um, and really, the purpose of Quai Network is to scale proof of work so that it can indeed be a parallel global monetary system and realize the original vision of Satoshi, which was creating peer-to-peer electronic cash.
Oh man, that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. I love that. So that's kind of what led you to launch Quai, right? Was getting into crypto for the actual reason that crypto was truly started. Because I can relate a lot. It feels like crypto is kind of losing the script a little bit lately. It's like there's lots of speculation. It feels like it's getting like kind of co-opted by the same institutions that kind of give us the problems that we already have. That we had a 2008 financial crisis because of the powers to be and the folks who the money supply's hands was really in, and that's why this all started. And now it just seems like, what are we doing? It's like it does kind of feel like we're losing the script a little bit. Um, so yeah, I can definitely relate a lot there. So I'm glad you
Yeah,
mentioned
I mean, to kind of add on to that, really, smartphones and the world that we live in is becoming inherently digital, and with that digital world, we will have digital money. And I believe that we're in an existential fight about what type of money that will be. Either it will be worse than the money that we already have, and it will be used to surveil, censor, and control us,
it.
um, in almost a perfect form. Or with efforts like Quai, it'll ideally realize, Satoshi's original vision. And if we can do that, I believe that the digital money can actually be a liberating tool and will allow for a much freer, more prosperous society in this digital age.
Dude, the
So I see it as an existential fight, to be perfectly frank with you.
yeah, we're just literally 100% aligned. Like the first part of that statement literally gives me chills and just like strikes fear into my spine. Like when I think about a social credit system and like the control that could potentially come with digital surveillance and just that, oh my God, just sunken so deep, right? As opposed to what could potentially happen if we get this right and it's actually truly decentralized. And the entire reason crypto was born, we get to see some of that happen. So, and I think that's what Quai was kind of designed to facilitate, right? Like this system here is essentially something that can replace the current monetary system with all its controls, right?
Yeah. So looking at the last sort of 15 years of history, or 10 really, when we started in earnest designing this, the question was, given what we had already seen, what did we need to do to make it so that not just in uh, arguments on Twitter, but in actual practice, you could build a system that could handle global commerce and eventually be robust to a nation state attack.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, if you're going to replace the current monetary system, those are the predicates. Um, so everything about Quai is designed to that specification. And part of that specification are user requirements. And with Quai, it's interesting with in crypto, there's not a lot of people who have actually considered what the transaction demand is.
Yeah. Well, you mean like the
So
content of it? Like what are people trying to do with transactions? Is that what you mean?
just
Oh,
number.
like
So if you had
volume,
to
right?
say how much are you do you need to have on a sustained basis to serve as a global monetary
Oh,
system? What
right,
is it?
right.
Most people don't have an answer to the question. It's a very hard question to answer, but I believe it's at least 100,000 TPS if you're going to serve sort of ubiquitously the connected world.
I think like a
Um,
normie or even like a crypto kind of newer folk would probably context like, oh, okay, well, what's Visa? What's Visa Network doing? Something like that. Like as a comparison, just kind of gauge.
well,
You know?
yeah, no. So in Visa is definitely one of our design points, but
Yeah.
Visa is only one interchange system in one country, America. We know that it's about 2,000 TPS.
Yeah.
Um, so you can start scaling from there, and you can make estimations on what you think the total number would be if you're trying to really replace cash and electronic payments globally. Again, at least for the currently internet connected world. And so you can estimate it, and we think it's around that sort of 100,000 TPS mark. So the other thing that Visa brings is it brings a specification both for cost and speed. And if we look at Visa, when you tap a card, your expectation is that you get a confirmation in 5 to 8 seconds.
Yes. Yep.
So 5 to 8 seconds is a design criteria for Quai in terms of how fast you should get a confirmation on your transaction, just like Visa. The pricing is also very important, which talks again to the scale, right? If you can't scale, you can't guarantee pricing. But with scale, we've basically set it so that a transaction, at least in the 2025 penny, should be about half a cent. Um, and over time, it should consistently be roughly that. So the idea then is on both a pricing basis and a speed basis and a scale basis, you can actually compete as a global system to replace not only Visa in America, but also Mastercard and all the other interchanges in all the other countries, um, as well as things like ACH and Swift.
The forethought that went into Quad, because then we could just kind of dive into like it being a two token system and having the ability to have like a medium of exchange permanently in house with the same system versus like a store of value. But wait, before we kind of go, I wanted to like open. Is there any kind of like current events, news, anything new that you think is going on with Quai, whether that's well, I'm going to try and twist your arm about projects, so, but I'll do my best to kind of like not twist your arm too hard about that. But I know a lot of things are going on with Kip. I just wanted to take a couple minutes real quick in the front of this and just like, is there anything cool that we want to mention that, so the reason I say this is because as a miner, I like cold storage. I like mining to my own wallet, and I don't like stake that. And I know a lot of other miners are like me. And so lately, though, the landscape it seems to be shifting. And I personally, and I think some of the other miners I talk to, I don't know, I can't speak for them, but I know I'm looking for, and same thing happened, post ETH merge, just like survivability. And like, so I'm just kind of expanding the things I'm into, right? So with that context, like I'm looking at like, what's going on with DeFi on Quai? And look at all these other applications, right? Like we're able to mine, and there's also kind of like new things that we can get into to kind of like generate revenue and have fun at the same time. So I don't know. I know that I'm kind of paying attention to what's going on with Kipper. I think that's pretty neat. I also have downloaded, I know hopefully Blip is going to be, I think, released publicly soon, on mobile. That's pretty cool. So just, anything we want to highlight real quick. Sorry, I was a little long winded, like Kipper, Blip, talking lithium, any of that kind of stuff. Like, because I'm just thinking like DeFi on Quai is something I want to get more interested and involved with.
Yeah. So in terms of updates, the Blip is actually out,
Yeah.
and it's updated in both iOS and Android.
Yep. I have it on Android.
Blip is pretty cool. It's I can I can pull it up
Yeah,
here.
I've been playing with it on
Um,
Android. It's pretty neat. See?
yeah, so you can kind of maybe see it here. Maybe I just got to do it like by my
Yeah,
face,
there it
so
is.
my
Yeah, I can see
background
it.
doesn't take it. But you do this, and then that's like a receive. So it's like very
It's like
Venmo sort
Venmo,
of
yeah,
like,
literally.
except it's better.
Yeah.
And then it also works in that,
Oh man, that's
sort of 5 to 8
sweet.
seconds,
Yeah.
and it does it, very very quickly.
And we're on chain,
Um,
like, and I can teach my grandma to use this.
yeah, you want to put a QR code up?
Oh yeah, hold on, I gotta. Let's see.
We'll see if I can scan it.
Hold on.
If you can focus it, I'll be able to scan
Wait,
it.
I don't think I have it fully set up yet. I have it downloaded. Oh wait, I didn't referral code. Here's my QR code. Oh, I can scan yours.
No, just skip the referral. It's fine.
Okay, skip setting up wallet. I haven't fully set up.
Yeah. Well, it might be you were on test flight, and then the new like version got
All right,
released.
hold on. Let me do it. Alpha mine. Okay, I'm gonna do receive. Oh, come
Yep.
back. Hold on. Okay, receive. Okay, let's see if this works.
You just got to get it in focus.
I don't
A
know.
little bit farther back, a little farther back, a little farther back. Let me see
It's
here.
still a little blurry though. Will it matter that's like inverted?
No, I've done this before. It's just a matter of getting the focus
That would
right.
be so funny if we could do
Now,
this over a web. Wait, hold on. Let me turn my brightness up. Let me turn
I've
my brightness all the way up.
that
Okay.
yeah, that might help.
All right. Hold on. Let it focus.
Oh, maybe actually turn it all the way
All
down.
the way down.
Is it
Oh.
all the way down?
Okay.
Yeah.
If this works, I'm gonna
It might
wow.
it might work better for the
All right.
sensor.
It's like dark now. It's like all the way down.
Oh yeah. That's like way better. Just if we can get it to focus. Come
Let me
on.
move back a little bit. Come on, camera.
Okay. Well,
All
the
right.
other
Well,
thing you could do is you could just send it in Discord if you want.
yeah.
You can copy your
Here,
thing.
I'm gonna share and we'll do it in
Uh,
Discord.
yeah. Anyway, so Blip is a cool app, obviously. The other one is Kipper. Kipper is just tipping in X. So the cool one with Kipper is that you can kind of, you just have this app, and this app basically just like lets you, have X, and then you just can just like tip with likes, or you can tip for content, and you can get tipped for creating
Yeah.
content. So here I can maybe show you it backwards inverted. Let's see here.
I've been looking at Kipper a little bit too, and like the leaderboard.
Okay, so like, so here's Kipper. Everyone can see it, right?
Yeah.
And I have tip with like set up. So if I like this
Bam.
post,
Tip
it
right
just
there.
sent
Yeah.
one quai to that poster,
Is that the jar or now
right?
that's built in, right?
Yeah, so this is Kipper Mobile.
Got it. Yeah, yeah.
So you can actually get this in test flight. We're going back and forth with like
Yeah, I
the
got
app
I
store
got
to
the
get it
Kipper
in.
mobile.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and
pretty
then you
cool.
can also tip doing this backwards. But like, I could tip this post, um, and I'll tip this guy 5 quai, right? And then that'll just send. And then it also has boosted replies. So if I reply to that guy now, like a creator I like, um, they'll see that reply at the top of their replies if you tip them. It's boosted, so it reorders the replies. And then we also have trending tweets. So if one of your tweets is tipped by a lot of people, we actually inject it into everybody's Skipper feed. So it's sort of like a feed independent of X. So you get to see prioritization replies, and you get to say prioritization in tweets, if you're actually tipping
There's a
people.
little virtuous cycle
And so
there.
that's on mobile, and that's in test flight on Android and iOS. Hopefully, we'll get that through the stores here shortly. But it's also on desktop as well. So if you do any Xing on desktop, you can use it as well. The thing
I
that
like
I
that
think is really
verb.
cool about it, all right, Xing, that's definitely what it should be,
That's
right?
funny.
Uh, but the thing that I think is really cool about it is it feels like a Web 2 experience, even though you're using Web 3. And that's really just the fact that, Quai is a scalable, high speed proof of work network. So there's sort of years of research that make it so that you can hit a like button on X and pay somebody instantaneously for half a cent,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. Um, so, it seems like it's pretty easy, except you have to realize that that's truly a decentralized global
Yeah.
network that's on the back end doing
There's
that.
gonna be a lot of people
Just
that like there's a lot abstracted away here. It's pretty elegant what's going on kind of behind the scenes. And Honestly, dude, miners right now, I think like especially retail home miners, like this is like a literal like a pretty low hanging fruit here. I think like if you're trying to make a little extra funds and you're already like posting stuff and kind of like creating content or whatever, that little virtuous cycle there you talked about of the feed kind of like pushing things up. I don't know. It's just like if I feel like I've always wanted this. I feel like I've always wanted there to be tipping on well, tipping while Xing. I just like I don't know why nobody has ever done it, and it's like it's finally here now, and it's pretty cool. It's just all on chain, and there's like I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to like validate anything. I don't have to transfer anything from a bank or whatever. I don't know. It's just cool. It's almost like why weren't you? I was looking at the leaderboard in like the Kipper dot money or whatever, and there's a dude who made like $142 in the last week, like just playing around on Kipper. It's like what? There's no kilowatt per hour you have to worry about. You're just tapping and talking, and I don't know. I think it's cool.
Yeah, well, I think the other thing that eventually emerges out of it too is um, it sort of removes some of the power from the platform. Because the reason the platform does really have power for both discovery as well as monetization is because they control the monetization. Like that is their gateway.
Yeah,
So the idea with Kipper is you can actually put the monetization layer on the blockchain on top of not just X, but many platforms. So eventually we're going to make
yeah.
Kipper cross-platform. So you could think of a version that's also integrated into Instagram or Facebook or Twitch or YouTube. Um, and you could directly tip people for making videos.
That's next level. That's disruptive. Are they gonna get pissed about that?
Yeah, I mean, so the hard one, I guess, is they control the Play Store.
Oh, right.
So we'll see when we get there, right? So YouTube's probably the last one we're gonna do, just because we don't want to,
Yeah.
because YouTube won't take you out of the Play Store if you screw with
I feel
Instagram.
like YouTube will be the most sensitive and they're like the most
Yeah,
like
yeah,
surveillance happy. I feel like yeah.
right. You could do it with all the other ones though.
Wow. I didn't know
Um,
that. That's actually cool.
yes. So there's a lot of power if you actually like remove that monetization layer. For me with Kipper, it's just a very interesting model because people who are creators or provide services, if it's movies, if it's tweets, if it's YouTube videos, whatever it is, I'm always very reluctant to pay them by a subscription. Not because I don't think they deserve it, it's because I don't want to have to deal with the overhead of subscription.
Yeah.
The cognitive sort of premium that I placed
I love that
because
term.
it's a subscription is probably 10x
Yeah.
higher than what the actual price is. So if you tell me, oh, $8 a month, I probably price that in my head as an instantaneous eight, right? But if you just say pay like $5 for this one movie
Yeah.
and there's no long-term commitment
Yeah.
here, I'll pay $5 all day long. So if
That's
I
so
see a
funny.
post that I like, you know, 20 cents here, a dollar there, like I said, we'll do that all day long. But if the current monetization scheme on X is one, you have to get monetized,
Yeah.
right? And then after you get monetized, meaning you've got at least 5 million views per month,
Yeah, which is a lot.
and you do the KYC and all that
Yeah.
stuff, um, you can get subscriptions. You can turn subscriptions on, and then you can choose. Oh, I want to pay this person on X, $5 a month or something. But again, it's like
Now you're paying forever.
maybe I like some of your content.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't post all the time, but do I? There's very few people I'm gonna pay $5 a month.
Forever. Like I want to sign up for you. Yeah, I get it. I love how you. I also measure things in my life like based on like cognitive load or like the cost of mental energy or time. I'll measure things in like units of time or units of like mental load. No, I thought that was funny you said
Well,
that.
no, but the subscription model is like heavily mentally loaded,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't know if you want to make this commitment. So now it's like, I want to see this one show on this one platform, but you're gonna make me pay $12 a month. Now, from a platform perspective, they
Yeah. You're
like it
locked in.
because it's like this parasitic
Yeah.
load that like
They don't
locks you
want you to
in. But from a
cancel.
consumer
Yeah.
perspective, you're just like, I want to watch this one show that you guys
It
have,
should be like pay as
right?
you go.
Like
Yeah.
otherwise you're communist, but this one show I enjoy, right?
Yeah, that's like pure, that's like it's just giving people what they actually want and not freaking, extorting them in the process. Like, and
Yeah, like Paramount
oh
Plus,
my God.
Halo. is amazing. But outside of like Halo and maybe like Picard,
Yeah.
like I don't want to pay for Paramount
Same.
Plus,
Yeah. It's like I have
right?
one show I want to watch. Like I want to watch. Whatever. And then it's like you got to sign up for the whole thing. It's not gonna cancel right away. Yeah. Same exact concept.
Well, and then the thing is, you can watch it kind of like, and typically you'll watch like in a streak. So a lot of times you won't have time for this, or you don't track it, so you don't watch it contemporaneously. You let the season come
Yeah.
out,
And then you
and then within a
get it
couple
all
weeks
done.
you watch the whole
Yeah.
season.
Dense.
So technically, if you were really good at managing your subscription, you'd only have a Paramount Plus subscription like 2 weeks a
Yeah.
year, right?
That's how they get you. They want to. Yeah. Um, Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so there's
Uh,
one other like item I think that goes in the same vein. So I'm like a total like DeFi pleb, right? Like I'm a noob, but I'm like very interested in it. And I noticed that Quai got a partnership with Wormhole. Now, again, context, total pleb. Is Wormhole is that a bridging service or is that you just want to like just give for like a minor perspective, like what exactly is Wormhole?
so Wormhole allows you to move assets from one chain to
So it'll be
another.
wrapped Quai or it'll be
Um,
like native Quai on whatever.
well, it depends sort of how you want to do it.
Okay.
So it does a couple different things for you. One, it can bring USDT onto Quai. So it'll be like wrapped USDT, which then means you can use that to buy Quai.
Wow.
Um,
So wow.
and so you could buy native Quai, or the other way you can do it is you can export Quai and wrap it on the other chain.
Okay. So like Quai
So
on
if
ETH
someone
or
say
whatever.
on Ethereum who's American that doesn't have good access to buying Quai via the current exchanges before the Kraken listing goes live, right? They could buy Quai using ETH or whatever they may have via the Wormhole um,
Nice.
integration, and they could choose to have Quai on the origin chain or move USDT to get Quai that's native. So both things are possible.
So is that considered a bridge? I'm very new to like bridges and DeFi. I'm very unfamiliar with that, and probably a good amount of miners are too. I would think. So I want to learn, and I want to like bring anybody who's interested with me.
Yeah, so that's considered a
Okay.
bridge. And bridging within the DeFi world is pretty ubiquitously used because of the L1, L2 constructions around EVM centric
Yeah.
systems. So Wormhole 2 is, I think they're probably like the second largest, probably behind Layer Zero.
Okay. I've heard
So it's a very respected, high volume, high capital bridge.
Yeah, I've heard of
Um,
them, and I don't
so
really, that's not my world. So yeah,
Yeah, so from our perspective on Quai, it's kind of like getting exchange listing in some ways,
that makes sense.
because it just adds a lot more access for a lot more people.
This as I'm listening to you, it gives me a technical question because my understanding is that Chi is, a UTXO based model, right? And then the account based model Quai. So what is that? So Chi is not going to be participating in Wormhole. Is there like kind of a gap there? I guess because of like we have UTXO and
Um,
then smart account based and smart contract friendly, or
yeah, but you can wrap Chi, right?
oh yeah, of
So you
course,
could export wrap
yeah.
Chi. So you won't have the privacy properties, but you'll have the monetary properties of Chi.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you can export that to other systems. Now, other systems don't have privacy properties, so sort of inherently, if you want to export it, you will lose that property. Um, so Chi can be exported via the
Yeah,
bridge.
once you
So
leave
in the
that.
same way that we want UST to come to Quai natively, USDT, um, so more people can buy Quai. We also want to export Chi, so then more people can start using Chi.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's actually a pretty big deal, especially with you bringing USDT over. All right, cool. Thank you for that. I'm getting very curious about these things. I had something else that I wanted to kind of pivot to. That's just much more like related to mining and kind of how things are currently going. And feel free to leak anything you want having to do with cleanliness or soap at all. Feel free to leak away. But I've been thinking a lot about this lately, right? And this is part of why I'm kind of getting interested a little bit more in like what's going on with DeFi as like a proof of work maxi and like the whole I didn't really ever come to crypto to get rich, right? Like I literally stumbled into crypto because of a buddy, read the Bitcoin standard, Foundland Alden, right? Like I was never really here to gamble. Like I was always here because I was like, I want this shit to be like what my kids inherit. Like fuck this current system. We need like wholesale replacement. Like I'm here to opt out, right? So like that's the context. So for me, it's like weird, like doing these little like kind of mental gymnastics, like looking at what's going on in proof of work space. And I'll give you an example. The one that like bubbles up in my mind foremost is the like what's going on with like Aleo or Elio. I don't really know how to say it, but their ZK model and what they're doing now with staking. It's just to put it plainly, it's like you need to essentially stake in order to claim just for your hash rate to be accepted by the network, and it's kind of like going up, quarterly. Now, I have a lot of thoughts about this topic, and I'm curious what yours are too. And I am like, believe it or not, actually, I kind of looking at like being a miner and watching mining go on for well, I'm about like 5 years old, and like pretty like hardcore mining is like my thing. Um, miners can be very flighty and they can create cell pressure as well. And I think I like when you use the term mercenary miners. And so like I'm thinking about this and I'll think about like project loyalty. And I've been like involved with Quai for a while. And I've watched some of these like larger miners just kind of come in and dump, and it's like, hey, stop that. So I like kind of like what Aleo, like I almost am sort of in favor of this idea that like you are kind of like like what Haleo is doing here is kind of like locking in. You're putting some skin in the game here, right? Like you can't just come in and dump on the project. Like you need to lock in to kind of get some reward. So I'm curious, like as a founder, as somebody who I hold in very high regard and is very knowledgeable about this topic, like what are you thinking about kind of this like you need to stake in order for your hash rate to be accepted by the network?
Um, so let's give it a little bit of context. The reason that this is, I think, top of mind for many people is because of what's happening with Monero.
Right.
Um, so to give kind of context there, there's this project called Cubic. As far as I can tell, they don't actually use proof of work to secure their network in a meaningful way. What they do is it's effectively a proof of stake network that gives out tokens for giving them hashing resources, which they direct at other networks.
Well said.
And they've been doing so, I would argue, maliciously with Monero because they've been selfishly mining. Now, playing devil's or being nice to them, you could say they're just maximizing their reward in the ill-constructed incentive scheme that is Monero that allows for profitable selfish mining. Um, but in either case, they're causing large liveliness attacks on Monero. So when you do a transaction on Monero, they've published, I think there's a 19 block
Yeah.
reorg or something.
18 or 19. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's like a week.
something
That was
like
only a week
that.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, those are 2 minute blocks. So that's almost an hour that gets rolled back off the chain.
Yeah, that's like substantial.
Um, that's a lot, right? So normally when Monero is working well, within say 10 minutes, you'll get confirmation depth that someone's willing to accept your transaction. But because of these liveness attacks, those confirmation depths have gotten a lot longer. I mean, I've heard some exchanges talking about 4 hours, some talking about a day or more before they'll credit a deposit or allow a withdrawal. Um, so obviously not net good for the system, but what this is really speaking to is the the nature of proof of work, and I don't think anyone else has really articulated this. And I've only probably sort of started to loosely articulate it. But when we talk about proof of work versus proof of stake, anyone who's probably watching this has sort of a very sort of intrinsic, gut feel that proof of work has something to do with sound money.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and the reason that is true is because if we look at gold as sound money, the reason gold has value is because it's tangible physical proof that a certain amount of energy was expended to find, mine, and refine an ounce of gold.
Exactly.
and it's sort of physically validatable. So the nature of the scarcity and the dispersion of gold means that if someone presents me a gold ounce, I can roughly compute at this point in time. I can say that took 1,000 megawatts
Right.
watt hours to produce,
Yeah.
right? Um, so it always sort of converges to its production cost, which makes it this concept of hardness in a physical setting. And if we look at proof of work based systems, we're saying the hardness has to do with sort of the specialness of the hash that's outputted during mining. But it's a similar concept even in Bitcoin instantaneously. Now, the difference in Bitcoin that makes it not digital gold is that it also has a decreasing emissions
Right.
policy. So rather than having an emissions policy that's sort of proportional to your energy input, it is proportional to the market as well as the emissions curve over time, which means Bitcoin that was produced 10 years ago was produced with substantively less energy than Bitcoin that is produced today.
Yes. Yes.
So it's not over a long time frame connected to the energy input, though instantaneously it is. It's kind of like digital gold with a network-based dividend.
Oh, I
Um,
like
but
that.
it's not strictly digital
Yeah.
gold,
Yeah.
right? So it's more like a stock or something than it is digital gold. But that characteristic of that instantaneous value of the token relative to the production cost is what sort of gets people with proof of work. They're like, yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. Like I feel that, even if they can't necessarily articulate it to the degree that maybe I just did. Now, the other thing that I think is very valuable that people understand is the immutable nature of it with time. And the immutable nature of it with time is what gives you that sort of decentralized guarantee that my money is my money. And if I send you money, you're going to receive that money, and we can all trust it without trusting each other. That's like the decentralization guarantee is that over time it becomes inordinately economically expensive to defeat the proof of work system. Now, the problem is proof of work when you're using open hardware or readily available hardware, not application specific hardware, such as CPUs mining on random X hashing algorithms with Monero, there's less of a guarantee up front, right? So there's always this assumption in proof of work that 51% of the hash rate is honest and cooperative. And if you're using general purpose hardware, it's easier to get 51% of the hash rate, which makes attacks cheaper to execute and less expensive to do because you can just rent the hardware for the attack duration. You're not necessarily investing in the
Right.
hardware like you would with something like an ASIC.
Yes.
So when we look at something like Bitcoin, it still is subject to the 51% attack. However, to execute a 51% attack, you have to invest in hardware, which is only good for mining Bitcoin, which then puts you in sort of a locked relationship with
That's
Bitcoin.
interesting. Yes.
Um, so this is actually a form of stake. And so proof of stake, on the other hand, and people say, oh, it has a higher security
I
guarantee.
like that.
This is the
I
interesting
like that.
thing. It only has a high security guarantee instantaneously, but it has zero security guarantee long term.
Hmm. What? Because oh, go
So
ahead. Go ahead.
so if I have the plurality of the stakers for however long I have that coordinated plurality, they can go back and change the ledger for free.
I see. Yes. Yeah.
So there's no long-term guarantee to proof of stake. That's why proof of stake is
Oh, well,
stupid.
I agree.
Like that's one of
100%.
the reasons, but like that's the actual reason is that instantaneously it gives you like this good sort of settlement guarantee that potentially has a higher attack surface than proof of
And
work.
over
But
time, it's
long
a dangerous
term, it
consensus.
gives you no
Yeah.
economic
Yeah.
guarantee,
I love how
right?
you
So
framed like ASIC investment as a proof of stake. And yes, go continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just that's awesome.
right, so like there's a continuum, right? And when we talk about proof of work versus proof of stake only gives you an instantaneous guarantee but gives you no long term economic
Yeah. Yeah.
guarantee. Proof of work gives you a great long term guarantee that only gets deeper with time, but its instantaneous guarantee, depending on the hardware that's used and the hash rate of the network, can be relatively weak because it's the 51% assumption,
Yes.
right? So what Monero is finding is they're the most work-centric system with the least amount of stake because they took the most available piece of hardware as their algorithm, a
Yeah.
CPU, which is the easiest to rent. So there's no invested capital, right? and that makes it the cheapest to kind of attack. It makes their 51% attack the weakest of all possible outcomes. Now, if you start then, there's then this continuum that's moving toward proof of stake. So I can make another waypoint here, which is Bitcoin, which is using ASICs. Right? They're not proof of stake, but the capital that went into those ASICs is staked capital. It's specific to Bitcoin that has an amortization cost. It's on the order of 12 to 18 months. Right? So there's billions of dollars of stake against Bitcoin, even though we don't call it a proof of stake network. Now, the problem with ASICs is sort of the centralization that we've seen within the production of those ASICs and the number of people that produce them and control them, as well as like the net entry cost.
To be able to run
Now,
them too. Yeah.
So so the question is, when you're looking at proof of work and you're looking at maximizing the resiliency of proof of work, what Monero is showing us is there's probably a degree of stakeness, and this is like a term that I've kind of made up, but like there's a degree of stakeness that potentially is more optimal than pure proof of work by itself. Now, I think it's far, far away from proof of stake. I think proof of stake by itself doesn't work. But proof of work with completely open ubiquitous hardware doesn't necessarily create the most attack resilient system. So there's probably some slope on which you want to add some stakeness to the system. Now, one way to do that would be to integrate some type of purpose-built hardware. Another way to do that, which Aleo is kind of experimenting with, would be having to stake as part of mining. Now, the important part with the design, though, is that, and this is like very misunderstood, I think, by the Monero community, but at least in my mind, the stake only helps at the very tip of the chain.
Okay.
So what Monero is just talking about is they're talking about doing proof of work and then putting a finality gadget on the tail. That's like not even close to the right design, because proof of work and the tail is great.
Yeah.
So the only thing you need to be using proof of stake for is to improve the liveness guarantees at the tip. So depending on how you do the design, you need the stake to be at risk at the tip. So if we talk about an ASIC, it implicitly does this, because if you're losing blocks, you're losing sort of the payback on the invested capital at the tip of the chain. So it's a very good alignment feature that aligns stake with work where it needs to be, which is instantaneously at the point of block production, not at some tail finality gadget of proof of stake. Proof of stake makes no sense past the instantaneous tip of the chain.
That's a tension there, with because like them, it's for Monero specific context, right? Because they're not going to want to. Because then you took the line with deploying hardware that is centralizing in nature when you think about an ASIC. It's instant, but I like staking. Yeah.
Right. So there's different ways to go about like moving up the stake scale.
Wait, does proof of entropy minima kind of solve for this?
So what POM does and what workshares do is they make it actually a 51% attack. So in Monero didn't get 51% attacked. Cubic never had a majority of the hash rate. They only had about 30% of the hash rate. But if you're working in like version 0.1 proof of work, which what is Bitcoin and is Monero, you're actually subject to much closer to a 30% or less attack, not a 51% attack.
Oh.
So you can actually, and this has been known for like 7 or 8 years, formally, right? There's a paper by Iyer and Searle that like described this, but basically with that Gen 0.1 proof of work, you're only really 30% resilient, not 51%. So what POM and workshares does is it takes you up from 30 to more closely approach 51. Now, it's still a 51% number. All we can do is approach 51%. We can't yet exceed it. I do have ideas on potentially how POM could exceed 51%, but I haven't been able to formalize that yet.
Wow. So, yeah. Okay. Now my mind is racing and thinking about Ethereum Classic and the DAO hack and etc. But okay, so I guess what then? like, what is your opinion of kind of like the deployment of a proof of work system, kind of like getting I think Aleo is a good context, right? Because Aleo has kind of like they launched a project and now they're like, hey, here you go. In order for your hash rate to be accepted, you're gonna stake. And now I'll tell you exactly how I feel about it. But I am curious, like, what do you are you in line with that?
Let's hear your
Okay,
opinion
okay, I'll tell
first
you
after
exactly
I've
for
described
anybody
all
watching
this.
this, because I'll put this out on YouTube this, the end of this week. Honest to God, as a miner, I've spent time capitalizing on like let me spec mine. I'm gonna get in early on GPU, right? I'm gonna deploy FPGAs for that little tiny window that FPGAs are profitable, and I'm gonna do ASICs, and I've tried it all. I've always been, CPU mining too. I've always been in love with like decentralization, right? I want this everywhere. I don't think there should be one large enterprise entity making all the money, right? So, that's kind of my context. Not get rich, but like a bunch of people making enough that it's sustainable and has like a large network effect. There's more adoption. The reason I got into crypto, is mining. That's what really got me in. So, with all that being said, I've noticed like trends, right? And like one of the ways to make money was just to kind of like operate in reverse of the trends. You see a bunch of YouTubers like talking about, hey everybody, let's mine this coin, and you can just watch. You like all everybody flocks to that coin. It's like, oh, the hash rate has dropped in this one. I know that that coin has potential, so I'll go over there, and that's like a strategy, right? So I don't want this to get too long-winded, but what I'm saying is like I can see through data the flightiness of even maybe like the GPU mining cohort. Like if there's a good percentage of that hash that came online during Ethereum, and when that whatever it was 20 million a day in emissions just got deleted overnight, that changed the game forever for GPU mining, at scale and at home. And so that hash needed to find a home or die, and a lot of it died. But in that meantime of like finding a home or dying process, like anybody was just looking to be able to make money anywhere. And so I think that created like this negative vacuum for like proof of work coins to launch into. So I'm saying all that context because I think it's odd for me to like finish with like I'm definitely not opposed to what Aleo is doing. Like I almost think I like the idea of a project putting in place a mechanism that, kind of it almost like forces loyalty in a way. Like I don't like the idea of a miner just coming in and like dumping on a project. Like I almost want the barrier to entry to be a little higher because I watch it's like there's a whole bunch of people running around the planet with hardware and they just want to like fire it up and make a quick dollar and dump on a project. It's like what? That's not I just don't think that's helpful. Sure, you can make money, but that's not why I came here. I came here because I want to see crypto change the world. And so I guess I'm saying all that I I don't know that I just like wholesale agree with the way Aleo deployed it. I still love like a truly fair launch project. I love Bitcoin. I'm a proof of work maxi. I'm very aligned with Quai and the mission of it. But I am very open to the idea of like creating some sort of like buy-in or loyalty or like stickiness or stakiness mechanism for miners because miners are flighty and honestly I watch them just flick the bird to project after project after project, just dumping on it. And it's like, we should probably put something in place to stop that. Either make it harder to like do it, or yeah, yeah. So that's where I stand. Basically, I'm kind of aligned with it. I think it kind of makes sense a little bit.
Um,
Yeah, sorry, that was long.
so what you're thinking about is kind of what I was thinking about maybe like a month ago.
Okay.
Um, and the unification process of POW and POS is tricky. The simplest way to do it from a perspective of mining is to have some gradation of application specific hardware. It doesn't need to be 100%, but some gradient thereof. That's definitely the simplest way to um, add robustness against a cubic like attack. Now, you can further go along the spectrum of stakiness by actually creating a staked mechanism, but the design of which, where it actually is meaningful at the tip of the chain production, um, is somewhat unclear to me still. I'll put it that way. Now, as I was thinking about this, the obviousness of what we're doing with soap, once I saw it, was so big and so important and solved so many of the problems that you're talking about in an incredibly simple way, that's like the obvious first step. Now, what we do after that, I guess we like haven't really considered or decided, but um, at least as of right now, SOAP does not include any form of stake
Interesting.
implicitly. Yeah, but it does solve the miner something on the project problem.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
There's definitely more than one way, I think, to do it. Like, like proper incentive mechanism. It's whatever light bulb went off. I'm sure it was very
So
interesting. Yeah.
so I'll put it this way. In the future, the only way for a proof of work system to exist and grow is with SOAP.
Wow.
That's it.
Dude. Okay. Wait. So, and the other thing that came to my mind as I was listening to you is like, what?
And I'll put it this way. From uh um a network's perspective, mining is a resource, but it's also a liability,
Security
right? So it secures
mechanism.
the
Yeah.
chain, but it's a liability in that you have to pay for it every day, and that has negative price pressure. Um, Imagine if you could turn a liability into an asset.
Right. Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
So there's one way. Okay. Well, that's kind of flipping the
and
script a little bit.
that's probably as far as I'm going to go here with it until we get it tested out.
Wait, before I don't want to shift gears without. I've had this in the back of my head. What? Okay, we play out the tape. What the hell happens? So when the block subsidies go away, and maybe this ties into what you just said a little bit, but like what happens if like Bitcoin isn't widely adopted as a payment mechanism, which isn't happening, right? Nobody's using Bitcoin as peer-to-peer cash. Like nobody wants to buy a cup of coffee or a turkey sandwich with like their savings, right? So where's the transaction volume going? Right. So when the block subsidy goes away for Bitcoin and whatever that is, like 2,129, like who's paying the miners? And then what happens to your security if there's
Yeah,
not enough block rows? Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, from my perspective, if you actually play this out, I think at some point Bitcoin will become proof of stake.
Well, that would be a twilight bizarre time to be alive.
Well, I mean that's literally like what the process of financialization is, right?
What does that mean for the implications there, man?
So let me let me play back history for you. It doesn't necessarily repeat, but it very much rhymes. So we mentioned that gold is sound money and that it has this relationship with proof of work. So in the first half of the 19th century in the United States, we had a golden era of sound money and a biometallic standard. Now, the problem with gold and silver was that it's hard to transport, store, and divide. So that left an opening for the innovation of receipts, which eventually became, fiat, or it became, gold-backed or silver-backed notes. Now, any enterprising banker or goldsmith figures out that not everybody comes and redeems all of their notes for their gold
Refractory.
at once, so they can issue a few extra, and you get their fractional reserve banking. And then eventually, what happens is your fractional reserve banking system ends up not being able to
Bank run.
redeem the gold, so you get a bank run. It goes bankrupt, and not everyone like gets their gold back because they obviously printed too many notes. And so when we moved off of the gold standard on to pure fiat, that was our transition from proof of work to proof of stake. But notice how it was a mild transition where they controlled the asset relative to the issue. So, so the
Wow.
other story here that actually exists in the 21st century is the LBMA and the creation of gold ETFs and GLD. There's actually many well-run analyses that look at the LBMA and think that their fractional reserve potentially 50 or 100 to 1. And the only reason that gold isn't ten or $20,000 an ounce is because of that. So they've effectively done it again with GLD. And if you think that they
Bastards.
did it with gold and dollars and silver and dollars and GLD and dollars and You don't think they're going to do it with Bitcoin and the ETFs in Bitcoin? Like,
It's
come on,
human
guys.
nature. This is why we have gambling in crypto, right? Because of just the hijacking of the pleasure and reward pathway, right? Like it is human nature for exactly what you just said. I like that. History rhymes.
Well, I mean, it's the same people doing the exact same games. So what you're going to end up getting at some point, right? The solution to the subsidy problem in Bitcoin is you either violate the 21 million or you increase the throughput of the system to create endogenous revenue to pay the miners via transaction.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin has systematically refused to scale in a meaningful way to generate revenue for the L1. So it's going to be a lot easier to do increase the 21 million, or you say, hey guys, we should go to proof of stake. And the amount of Bitcoin that's ultimately controlled by the institutions is probably going to determine what that looks like.
Wow. Think about what that
Um,
allocation is going to look like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, too.
Yeah, I mean it's an unsustainable system. So much in the same way that you look at Social Security, most rational people will be like, "I'm never going to get a Social Security check," or if I do,
Yeah.
it's not
Money
going to
goes
mean
up.
anything relative to what I put in or what I could buy,
Correct.
right? Um, and we know that because the structure of the system is systemically imbalanced, such that we know it doesn't sustain itself. So a rational look at Bitcoin's monetary policy relative to proof of work mining and its total global scale tells you that it's also unsustainable. If people want to, internalize that and try to game out what happens or not, that's up to them. But it's pretty obvious to me that it's unsustainable. So something's going to happen, and
You think
I,
that's
I, I you know. I don't think any of them are great, except for the one where Bitcoin figures out how to like scale and generate revenue. It just hasn't done it yet. So maybe that's like the happy path it goes down. I just based off what we've seen over the last 8 years since the scaling wars, I just don't think that's the one that's going to take.
damn. So far, I think now I'm already emerging with like there's the game theory here is you just broke the system. If there's a way to kind of flip the incentive mechanism on its head, which is apparently what Project Soap is kind of orbiting around. That's fascinating. Uh, because
Well,
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so like that's the so I'll give you one other hint. People often talk about proof of work as a distribution mechanism.
Yeah.
And when you talk about it as a distribution mechanism, you have this negative growth coefficient every day,
What as per
right?
halvings or
No, 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 just from selling.
oh right,
So you
okay,
get
I
these
understand.
mercenary
Yeah,
miners, right? And you're paying for that electricity every
yeah.
day. What if I told you that proof of work was never meant to be a distribution mechanism? It was meant to be a diffusion mechanism.
Ah, disseminating money. What? Okay.
No, no, no. It's
Diffusive.
diffusive. It's different. It's different.
Oh man, how long do we have to wait? Yeah. All right. Um.
Basically, like, SOAP means that any power system is going to have to adapt it or die.
Holy shit.
Is like long term the outcome here.
Oh my god, that's fascinating. All right, that's cool. There is like in respect of time, I have like a couple. There's like two other things, kind of topics I wanted to touch on, and then there's actually a bitch ton of like community questions. I was like, hey, I'm talking to Dr. K today. Let me know if you guys have any questions, so we can get to as many of them as we want to, as you have time for. But there was
Yeah,
like
shoot some
all
off.
right, cool. I did want to just like touch on
Somebody's gonna drink here.
I was thinking about I've seen like some of your talks and the one I actually liked a lot was that one you did at like the Free State Project, dude. That was sick. That got me hyped. But the part where you were like talking about goods and services kind of priced in like chi and just like tying it back to energy and like I have like a decent understanding, well, not of like Wolfram, their kind of thesis, but like I think just if you could just touch on elevator pitch if you want, just for anybody watching who's like a miner and is like interested, just like what are your thoughts on like pricing goods and services in energy, and then if you want to like tag in just kind of like Wolfram, what it is and why it would be interested in something like chi. I find those things fascinating, so real quick I just wanted to like throw that out there.
Yeah, so this kind of circles back to the earlier part of the conversation, looking at Bitcoin as divergent from actual digital gold, right? What Chi is basically saying is let's make something that is more truly digital gold, and that we don't have the expectation that the purchasing power goes up with time. We have the expectation that the purchasing power remains consistent with time. So effectively within the system, chi is emitted proportional to the hash, which is proportional to the energy that you put into mining. Um, so it's more akin to gold because I think every chi is something like 8 times 10 to the 12th hashes. So it's literally tokenized hash, which turns into tokenized energy. Um, so effectively, what that allows you to do is it allows you to create a unit of account, which is non-referential to the dollar, but can function as a replacement for the dollar as a mechanism for pricing goods and services. So if we look at sort of the variability or volatility of energy over a 12 to 18 month period, and even net out what will happen with chi given the mechanisms which cause it to equilibrate, maybe in any given year you could see chi as it matures go plus or minus 10% in purchasing power, which is something that is very easy to price a good service or contract in, whereas something like Bitcoin that could say go up 5x in a year or down 5x in a year, those are very hard contracts to write, right? As an employer, I would never, even in crypto, I would never actually want to write an employment contract in a deflationary cryptocurrency because effectively I'm taking short.
Yes, accurate.
Right. So then we end up depending back on the dollar because we don't want to have an implicit short. Even though I want everyone to use crypto, you just can't short deflationary currencies by writing contracts in them. So you need something that's crypto, but ideally not related to the dollar, because every time we reference the dollar, every time we use the dollar to price goods and services, we're reinforcing the hegemony of the dollar and the military police state that goes with that. So if we fundamentally want to sort of break free of the system, it's not just about having store value. It's not just about having digital cash, but it's also having that extrinsic yet crypto endogenous numeraire or unit of account that allows for pricings of goods and services. Right. Stable coins are one of the most pernicious things that go against decentralization and separating money from the state. It's the mechanism by which they can co-opt the whole crypto system and infrastructure. Oh, they absolutely
they're going
know
hard
it at this
right
point.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to realize that it's that I saw this as a problem probably back in 21 as like one of the biggest problems in the space is what US backed stablecoins do to the system in terms of making them controlled by the current financial system. Right? When we look at Ethereum, and let's just say for the sake of the argument that Ethereum is perfectly decentralized, even though it's a proof of stake system. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. A lot of those stakers in that stake is held by companies who make their real money by providing access to the fiat banking system, the US dollar banking system. And so what will end up happening is that if there's ever a contentious, say, fork in Ethereum, let's say they decide that all blocks shall be OFAC compliant, and if you're one of these parties, you're not allowed to build on a non-OFAC compliant block.
Like what the fuck?
They could do that, and all of the people that hold all of the USDC would go along with it, right? So that on your $400 billion network, there's going to be $200 billion of dollars that are going to go with the OFAC compliant route. Where do you think the canonical chain is going to land?
Following right with it.
It's going to land on the one with the $200 billion in bank deposits on it, right? Because although you can split the ETH, you can't split the USDC. And so whoever controls that USDC is going to control the outcome of that system. So what you fundamentally don't want is a large amount of stablecoins circulating in your network because it fundamentally degrades the decentralization.
Dude, honest opinion. Do you think we're gonna pull it off as an industry, or do you think we're fucked and that's already like I don't know, if you forecast out, like based on, you've been in crypto a little while now, like based on where things were, where they are, and where you think they're going, did we lose the script already?
I would say like Quai is our last best
That
hope.
that's why I'm
Um,
here.
yeah, and I would say, I've been stressing out like all year because it's been very difficult to get over the noise relative to the signal. But one of the best ways to do that is good PA, and SOAP is going to bring that. So
PA as price action.
um,
That's
yeah,
a very strong marketing tool for sure.
100%,
Yeah, it's the loudest.
100%. So like if you're coming with like the coolest thing on the block and you can just get good PA against it, like eventually it will take root,
There's
right?
so much to
So
know.
we already know that technically, right, we kind of have everything you ever will need. Um, Programmability, privacy, unit of account, everything. It's just a matter of what I've referred to as the GTM, which is how do you get adoption over that signal to noise. So, SOAP is really the attempt at flipping the script in such a way that we've redesigned the economics to be um, it's a positive feedback coefficient, right? So mining always has a negative feedback on
Yeah,
price. We're making it so it has a positive feedback on
via
price.
mining,
Yes.
game changer. That I can't wait to when soap when I don't want to make you
Yeah.
guys put a
Yeah.
when on anything, but I mean, but when though?
No, soon. I mean, we've been burning the midnight oil here, trying to get it
Are
out.
we are we
Um,
soon
it
sooning or like very soon?
um, I'm hoping that we get it to testnet next week.
Oh shit! Wow, I'm gonna have to start hanging out in Orchard.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we get it to testnet is when we'll kind of reveal what it is.
That's that's incredible.
But yeah.
Okay, cool. So there is like a good swath of community questions. I want to try and get to some of them. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on, like tying things into Wolfram real quick, or should we just hop into community questions?
Oh yeah. Oh, so one cool thing about Wolfram is he's actually looking to launch a economics project.
Steven, right? It,
Mhm.
is he a professor at a university? I want to get more familiar with. Oh no, he's like his own kind of entity. He
No,
seems like a
no,
professor,
yeah,
certainly.
he's a CEO of Wolfram Alpha, which is the maker of Mathematica.
And wait, and
Um,
he's launching what
so
now?
he's been working on the Wolfram Physics project, which is why he got interested in Quai, because the architecture of how you scale proof of work just happens to also be innately analogous to his description of the grand unified theory of physics. But the other thing that he's interested in is economics, specifically relating economics back to physics, which is this concept that has been somewhat explored called
Yeah.
thermoeconomics, but not well explored. And chi is effectively like the link of how you unit account um, thermoeconomics into a real economic system. So we'll see where that goes and how big that gets. But yeah.
Oh my God, that's a happy. That's I'm gonna stay pay attention to that. That's serendipitous, I guess. That's pretty cool. You guys must have been like, oh. So, all right. So let's do some of the questions I got from Discord coming into this. We kind of talked about here's the number one question is and this is like a sooning and you don't have to answer directly, but a lot of people are just when Kraken, people are just hitting me up with like when Kraken listing. I've been saying, probably fall-ish was kind of my guess. I don't know if you don't have to say anything, but that was a question I said I would ask it, so I'm asking it.
Yeah. I mean, we want it to be as soon as we can, right? But Kraken has their own set of
Yeah.
priorities, right? If you look at the integration, right, it's an L1 integration. It's not like a ERC20 integration. Um, so it takes a minute. But yeah, it's happening. It's just we're on their schedule.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's probably a little bit easier to flop a meme coin on top of Ethan, get that listed, then do L1.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Are there any? I got one that was. Are there any future partnerships coming? But there's been a lot that has been launched recently, and I don't even know if you'd be able to answer that anyway. But any future partnerships in the on the horizon?
Oh, there's one coming tomorrow that's pretty
Oh, neat.
cool.
I think I heard Chris mention that in the last
Yeah.
one. Is that the same thing? He was saying there's going to be in that. Okay,
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
awesome. So I'll.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
go ahead.
yeah, I guess I can't spoil that one. We'll have
Yeah,
to wait for
all right,
tomorrow.
all right, all
But,
right. I keep trying to get you
yeah.
to have leaky Dr. K today. All right, this one comes from Clonners. If it's better, okay, this is a simpler one. We'll just do a couple. You stop me whenever, or we'll get through the list. There's not too many, but yes. If you think it's better to onboard people directly with Chi or surf the USDT or USDC trend. So I don't know what your thoughts are there, but I guess he's just talking about onboarding people and with stables or Chi.
I think any way you do it
Yeah.
is ultimately
Yeah.
fine, to be honest. Like ultimately you would like USDT to be used natively because it has that privacy property, but in the short to mid term, however you gotta, get people inculcated into it, the better. There's even this concept floating around that to ease the transition to Chi, you could actually make USD Chi,
I love it. DeFi on Quai
which
USDT.
no, so it's very interesting, right? So if you look at like a maker system,
Oh, like market
um,
maker?
no, like Maker DAO,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
yeah, like
Yeah,
DAI,
yep. Mm-hmm.
right? They create synthetic dollars via CDPs or collateralized debt
Okay.
positions. But the nature of the leverage and the relationship of sort of the underlying asset price and sort of the feedback loop on CDPs is not like the greatest thing in the world. Um, but the issue with Chi is that even though it's going to like roughly be a dollar, it's not exactly a
Yeah.
dollar. But you could actually make synthetic dollars from Chi, which would be like way easier to back in a CDP because it's much less volatile. So you could have much like lower funding rates, and you could potentially earn interest on your USDG.
Oh,
So there's like a whole like construction here where because you have like a much closer to stable system, relatively speaking, you could actually create a much better synthetic unit.
oh wow. Yeah. Okay, I follow. That makes sense. Oh, that's interesting. Uh,
Yeah,
Nice. All right, cool. Let's jump
yeah.
to the next one. We got oh, this one's about Chi, and in short, the guy says, this is from Lone Wolf in the Discord if you're watching. He says, "How is Chi price determined?" Now, context here. He says energy cost differs from country to country. I believe he's in the UK and he's a miner, and like in the UK, it's very expensive and not always like profitable to mine. He says, in Europe, it's expensive. Will that impact rewards given between different countries? Do you have any plans to normalize the mining effort and mining
So
costs?
so
Yeah,
Chi yeah, Chi is
it's just
just
energy. Yeah,
market determined.
yeah,
So like kind of like with mining, generally speaking, you have to just to do it profitably, you're gonna be in the lower quartile of global energy pricing. And if you want to say kind of what the price to produce of Chi is, it's probably the mean of that lower quartile.
exactly.
Um, but it's not determined by us, right? We're just kind of prescribing a number of hashes per token, which correlates to energy,
Yeah,
and like that's
okay.
it. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, my yeah,
there's no real pricing. There's no geographic like correction. It's
it's
just
energy.
the market kind of decides the
I
prevalent
think
rate,
Lone Wolf is going to be.
right? In the same
Go
way,
ahead.
right? In the same way, like you would mine gold if your gold mining cost was $10,000 per ounce.
Yeah, it's just whatever it is for what.
Like you probably should mine Chi if that's the case, right? It should be close to the clearing
Yeah,
rate.
yeah, exactly. I think
Yeah.
he'll, in particular, be very excited about whatever soap is going to bring in the hopefully very near future. Because he was asking other stuff about worried about large scale miners and etc. Okay, we got one more.
Yeah, like honestly, my biggest regret this year is that I didn't come up with soap like 6 months ago.
Oh, yeah, I heard you saying on the last one that like,
Oh,
man, I wish I would have thought of this. But like the happy accident, I was just listening, but I was like saying out loud to myself, I was like, hey, better late than never, dude. But yeah, like yeah. that, just the situation kind of forced this to happen almost in a way. It's like nature healing itself.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's yeah. At the end of the day, right? Like I kind of get more Taoist as I get older. So like, I think everything was meant to happen when it was meant to happen,
That's one of my favorite books
the way
ever,
it was meant to
Tao
happen.
Te Ching.
So I I'm not truly like regretful of it, but it would have been sweet if we had done it earlier because damn,
Yeah.
it'll still be good, but like if we had done it earlier, man, it'd already be great.
Dude, I can't wait for Lyft. It's very exciting. I think the just keep doing exactly what you guys are doing. It's fascinating. We'll see how it goes. All right, so we got one more. This wouldn't be like a Quai session if we didn't have a Kishore question in here. So shout out to Kishore. He threw one in there. This is a little bit technical, but I'll just read it word for word. He goes, with region and prime chains being coordination only, how do you anticipate their role evolving as more zone chains come online? I thought that was pretty interesting too, actually.
um,
Always gotta have a techie Kishore question.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so we actually spent the time to sort of like figure the system out, right? Now, when it comes to sharding, you don't ever want to have more shards than you need,
Hmm.
right? Which is why we only have one zone chain right now. We think that when it gets to about 600 or 700 TPS,
That's when we'll
it'll
start.
have a sufficiently high uncle rate that a new shard will get
Yes,
added.
yes.
But that's an emergent property of the network and the miners and the nodes that they run. So we only can estimate it. We don't actually know when it's going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
That being said, we've tested many shard systems, right? So back in Iron Age, we actually did a 3x3 testnet for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's actually the lesson that told us you shouldn't have more shards than you need. um, from economic security, for many reasons, you should have more shards than you like economically are demanded. Um, so, I mean, eventually it will happen once the transaction rate goes high enough. The system sort of automatically detects its performance, and once the uncle rate goes high enough for long
Yeah.
enough, it just throws a new shard in. So all that's been tested, and you can actually see a demo on live.qu.ai, which is a pretty cool link. It shows you the current test net, and then it also shows what it would look like in a 2x2,
Oh yeah, I love that
which is
site.
about all we can render realistically on a browser. But it basically, if you understand proof of work and you see that system and you understand that the 2x2, not a 16x16, like you'll realize that we've literally solved proof of work, like straight solved proof of work with this whole system.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
it's
awesome.
just so obviously, impressively different than anything you've ever seen. You're just gonna be like, oh,
Yeah.
I
I feel
understand
like
now.
the market hasn't woken up to what's going on here yet. Like I almost just feel like it's like a learning curve kind of thing. But PA might kind of megaphone it out there, and then people are going to start looking under the hood like, oh shit, there's something going on here. Like this is a game changer project here. That's what I've found.
Yeah, and like I say, I think all things happen like in the right sequence. So it was interesting. Alan had a convo with Hodgkinson
Oh yeah, yeah.
over in Korea, uh, and he said that one of the comments that he made was that we had solved proof of work.
Goddamn. Well, there you
Yeah.
go. That's a mic drop
So,
moment. How about that? Uh,
you know, it'll be interesting. We're in contact with him now. I'd love to, get him on a space and talk about it because, even though he's proof of stake centric, he's one of the, um, I think, more open technical thinkers, um,
yeah, that's no
in the
small
space.
that's no
So,
small feat there. And when I think about that in like the larger crypto sphere, um, that's kind of a big deal. Anytime I feel like any like knowledgeable, kind of like intellectually honest or like well-rounded person or like a heavy hitter, like you got like shy kind of figures out what's going on here. Look what happens.
our
Well, yeah,
Wolfram,
they're just like, oh shit, there's something
uh,
elegant going on here. And Hoskinson, I believe,
Yeah, well,
don't they have some kind of relationship with ergo, which is like very hardcore proof of work, right? I think even the Latin word for ergo itself is work.
um,
Are they related in some way?
I don't, I want to say there's something there. I remember that very loosely. Yeah,
Yeah, there's some relationship
I'm
there.
not sure on the
Forget what it is,
specifics,
but
but yeah, no, I mean, at the very least, like I will say that, and like I believe where we have gotten Quai is where you can get proof of work. Now there is potentially this one statement that still might exist, which is I might actually be able to go past the 51% threshold. Um, so maybe that's like still in the cards, but other than that, um, I think what we already have is basically under the constraints of physics, like as far as you can go with it. So, at the very least, like we've created the archetype for how proof of work succeeds.
that's incredible. Well, and I think sometimes we forget, like mainnet is not even a year old. Like there's still
But
time.
yeah, but also remember, like from concept to live, it took us 7 years to actually build it.
Yeah.
So we didn't like ship a half-ass product and then you know patch it for 15 years, like some other systems.
Yeah, no, there was some serious for building that. I was involved in testnet for
Yeah,
years.
and I'm not hating on Satoshi here. I think Satoshi did a great thing. I'm like hating on
Yeah.
like the ones
No,
after that.
yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
Um, all
yeah,
right, man. Well, I guess we're about close. That's probably a little over an hour there. I think. Is there any I don't know, any closing thoughts? We covered all the community questions. I don't know, anything else you want to throw in there?
no, I mean a lot of stuff's going on here. I think the change with soap is going to be a big one. Catalyze some good PA.
Yeah,
And with that, I think it'll get a lot more people looking at the project and
I love that.
the innovationness of it.
Catalyze PA.
Realize it's
Cool.
a goal.
Oh wait, we do have a couple questions coming in on the X. I haven't been really looking at the X thing, but there's if you want, we got like two more. If you got a couple more minutes, do you want to, or should we wrap? All
Yeah,
right, let's do
sure.
it. So,
Yeah, we can knock two more
from
out.
Francisco Savia, he says, "What is the plan for gaining activity on chain with stickiness and not only farming people?" I think we kind of covered that pretty well. I think I don't want to answer for you, Dr. K, but I would say probably stay tuned for SOAP, unless there's anything else you want to add to that one.
Yeah, I mean, we've been building tools like Kipper. The announcement tomorrow has to do with broadening usability of Quai significantly. Um, right, there's like an evolution of systems, right? The first evolution is monetary, where people are willing to invest time, energy, and money into the system because they believe that it has long-term potential as being a greater have greater adoption being a global utility, right? Like that's sort of stage one, right? And then stage two is where you start to get nascent tools where people maybe use it as a niche, but they don't necessarily use it as money. And so, Kipper is kind of like that. The announcement tomorrow is kind of like a stage two announcement. But the concentration on SOAP is to make sure that you establish the monetary base in such a way that you have enough assets and interest to go to stages two and three. And stage three is when you eventually get to money. Um, so there's an arc that has to naturally develop. You can't be three before being two. You can't be two before being one. Um, so I guess it's our perspective. It's not necessarily about getting users on chain, um, as it is getting user access, getting users awareness, and getting that time, effort, and capital committed to the project.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I think that about covers it. Yeah, there's anything else? No, any other like last words, closing thoughts, or and then I'll I want to say thank you for hopping on. I've been wanting to talk to you for a little while, so it's pretty cool. It's been a fun journey for me. I've been, I remember discovering Quai a while ago on Reddit, and I was like, damn, what is this? And here we are, and it's been fascinating kind of watching this project kind of just unfold and build on top and keep going. So I don't know. I love what the hell you guys are doing. I'm very excited for Soap, and just keep grinding, man. You guys are crushing it. That's what I wanted to say, and thank you again. And then anything else you want to add, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, we're all here, because we're trying to win this existential fight. So whoever's willing to join us, we welcome them.
Yeah, hell
So
yeah, brother.
we appreciate your effort and all the pools you've been running and participating in the community, and hopefully that'll get you on the ground floor of what's soon to be one of the great crypto systems. So
I hope that's my goal. That's why I'm here. Again, I never came here to get rich. The R word is what got me here. I'm here because I left the other system. I want a revolution. That's why the fuck I'm here. And this is the only place that I have stumbled upon that I think is possible. And so I'm all in. So cool.
yeah, I mean, like that's the real thing, right? It's something will come after the dollar, and the dollar is like sputtering
Yeah,
right
dude.
now. It's sputtering. So the question is, will it be Quai or will it be a CBDC?
I'm leaving this planet if it's a CBDC. I don't want to be here anymore if it's that. I don't want anything to do with any of this.
Yeah,
I
I
need
mean
it to be quiet.
it's gonna be rough, but I mean that digital panopticon they can set up if they have a CBDC like currency, um, is gonna be pretty
It's terrifying.
pernicious, right?
There's too
They're
many
gonna
creature comforts, and it's just like they make everything so easy, and then it's like here, let's watch you. Let's just keep you in line. Let's keep you stupid and lazy and in line, so we can just extract value from you. And I'm
yeah.
here
Well,
like fuck that.
imagine if they had a CBDC 5 years
Oh my
ago,
god, bro. I leave the planet.
right?
That's how it makes me feel. It's like I don't even want to be on
Well,
Earth.
I mean it's going to be really hard to escape, right? Because like they're going to be able to limit your accessibility to goods, assets, resources, transportation, like political speech,
Dude, it's
everything.
terrifying.
Um,
It's terrifying.
yeah, and so one thing I would encourage people to think about, right, especially when they get sort of in these roundabout fights that people have, is do we really think like the knots versus Bitcoin
Yeah,
is meaningful, or where we should be spending any share whatsoever?
agreed.
If 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 that's what you're doing right now, and you care about not having a CBDC, you are severely
You
misallocating
gotta
your time
refocus.
and resources.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, brother. Well, I think we can wrap up there. So I'll put. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I apologize. The audio and video started desyncing. We were using Google Meets to do the video call, and so the other thing that I think happened was I don't know about you guys, but I tend to use my crappiest hardware for myself, and then use my better hardware for mining and rentals and nodes and everything. And so I have since migrated a little bit stronger hardware onto this system, so hopefully that'll kind of solve a little bit of that. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and I do apologize for the audio on and video on my side desyncing, but that's it. I hope you enjoy.